lives keep me inspired.
Not fully done yet, you know, everything is a work in progress, but this is what we have so far.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Authentic Amigas. My name is Valerie.
And I'm Florencia. Thank you so much for joining us for episode number 11 of Authentic Amigas Podcast. Real quick, just want to point out that today is December 11th. We are recording episode 11 on the 11th. So for any of you numerology hoes out there, people like me, you know that's significant. But moving on, you can check us out on all of our different social media platforms. We are at Authentic Amigas everywhere. We are also on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So check us out. Any platform that you like, we are there.
Yeah, and also make sure to check us out on our personals. My personal right now is Valerie Pamela on Instagram. Flo's personal Instagram is at Florencia Galvan. Make sure to follow us there if you want to see more of our big heads. Not her, she doesn't have a big head. My big head and her average head. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. We are on episode 11, like Flo said, and I can't believe it. I am shook. That means we've been doing this for over 11 weeks.
Right. That's crazy.
That's insane. Let us know if you guys see any progress in our podcast. I don't really know if there has been. I hope so.
I think there has. I mean, we have this video running, which if you are listening to us on either SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, just know that you can also be watching us on YouTube. So if you check us out on YouTube at Authentic Amigas, you can see us. That's something that we didn't start with. We actually just got to do that starting last week. So check us out there. We're crazy. Fun to look at sometimes.
Yes. Most of the times I'm very fun to look at.
I'm like, except for when I don't wear lashes or something, but anyways.
No, I'm like, I'm either fun or funny to look at. Either or, it's a good time.
Either way, join us because it's a party.
But yeah, so we're on episode 11, and today we are going to talk about something I actually brought up last week, right, on my story. I think it was a week ago, and then I tagged you because I was like, I really want to talk about this. I was like, best friend, can we talk about this? And you said, say let's
do it. So
yeah.
So we want to be talking about today is fashion, but specifically we're going to be talking about fast fashion, ethical fashion, sustainable fashion. We're just going to see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not experts on the matter. I'm not anybody's teacher. I am not an expert. I'm a consumer, and I'm just somebody who likes to be educated when I can, and you know, I'm interested in the things that I consume, and that's it. That's it. I'm not an expert.
Yeah, same. I'm also not an expert in this conversation. I just know what I know, and I'm going to speak on what I know today. This information for myself could change tomorrow. I could have a different perspective tomorrow, but right now, this is what I have. Personally, with fashion, I just love fashion. I love fashion so much. I love everything about fashion. It's like, I always say it's people and then fashion. Like, those are my two passions in life. But with loving fashion, there is a responsibility that you also, I think, should have. And things that you should be mindful of when you love fashion so much. So, and today we're going to talk about some of those. And I feel really passionate about these things too. So let's get right into it. Best friend, first, do you want to talk about fast fashion?
Sure. So I guess for anybody who doesn't know, I guess what is fast fashion, right? So fast fashion is like, if you think of, like, if I had to name a couple stores, like we're talking about like Forever 21, H&M, like stores like that are more, I would say especially Forever 21, but stores like that where the clothes is very trendy. Usually things are there only for like a season or like very quick, and then the trend passes and the clothes is like thrown away basically. Or it doesn't really like last very long. It's not very well made usually. I don't know, what else comes to mind for you when we think fast fashion?
Well, when I think of fast fashion, I instantly think of Fashion Nova. I feel like Fashion Nova has really been the staple company for all these other fast fashion brands to start and come up. Like, they were like the first ones to really do it and make it big, and then like they started this I don't want to say trend, but they opened up this door for many other brands and companies to want to follow. Fast fashion for me, when I think of fast fashion, I think of like literally fast, like instant. Like I get it, it's hella cheap. It's very cheap most of the time, and I get it. I wear it 1 or 2 times, and that's it. It's gone. It's to waste. It's on to the next. So that's really what comes to mind for me. There's nothing more broad to that. Actually, there is a lot more to that, but like
Yeah.
right away, that's what comes to mind is just fast. It's fast. It's cheap, and it's not sustainable or ethical at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you say cheap, like not just like cheap to buy, but like cheaply made too. It's like the type of like if you ever have
Exactly.
like a t-shirt, like a sweater or something that like you bought it and it was like a deal and you wore it one time and after it washes, like falls apart. Like that's kind of I think another thing with fast fashion. And I hate to say this, but like a lot of Instagram boutiques, like a lot of them are built off of like fast fashion and fast fashion culture, which is hard because we as a society, like as a whole, are shaped by it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also with fast fashion, and this could be a whole podcast on its own, but a lot of fast fashion. Okay, let me backtrack. If you're paying, I always have this rule. If you're paying a certain amount of money for an item that you feel like you should be paying more for, uh, it's most likely because somebody else is paying that cost for you, whether through their labor or what. There's multiple ways, but it's cheap because people are not getting paid what they should be getting paid for making those items and for producing those items. Lots of times they're made in sweatshops, and these people are getting paid like crazy, crazy low. Like it's like not even.
Yeah.
It's not a even close to the minimum wage what people are getting paid for these items that they're making. So that's the biggest reason for myself why I'm so against fast fashion, to be honest. um
Yeah. I think
yeah.
it's not always necessarily like sweatshops too. Like it's people in other countries like it's
Hmm.
kind of like the reason why goods like imported from China are like so cheap because labor is cheap overseas like China, India, Bangladesh, like countries all over the world where
Yeah.
labor is so cheap and we're able to pay people like cents per hour to produce to like for their labor to produce goods and it's so much cheaper to make them over there because we can pay people so little over there and
Yeah.
then bring the things over here to sell and make a huge profit
Right.
and it is really terrible because in like here in the US like we have like OSHA and like a lot of organizations that like protect laborers and that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen here but in lots of other countries that maybe the people have not had the opportunity to be so organized and like unionize in this type of way
Yeah.
they're being taken advantage of.
Yeah, they're not protected by anybody. No law protects them. Nothing's protecting them, and they have no other option. Because imagine like companies, brands, large corporations come from the US, like you have to do that. Okay, like they have
You
no
have to
other.
take the job.
Exactly, exactly. Do you remember um that news report that came out about Fashion Nova and how they were paying their employees? Do you remember that? I think that happened at the beginning of this year, if not last year.
Yeah, I remember that there was Fashion Nova. I don't know if it was also like I may be wrong but like American Apparel, even like companies that are like based in LA,
Yeah.
where a lot of them pay like the people that sew their garments pennies per hour, like
Mhm.
very, very low wages, where really it's like it's theft like of their labor, like it's stolen wages, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's important to note too that oftentimes when it happens here in the States, it's mostly like immigrants. Like that's really what it is because no pueden ser demandas. Like they can't sue nobody. Like they can't do nothing. They have to take it. Um, I just thought of Donald Trump too, and how like he even said himself that like for him, this has nothing to do with fast fashion. This just has to do with how I feel about Donald Trump, by the way. So, side note, he would do this too. Like he would hire a bunch of immigrants And then at the end of their work, like he would hire them to build his stuff, to do all the construction for all his rich man buildings that he has, his hotels, all that stuff that he owns, all his properties. He would try to contract immigrants. And then at the end, when it was time to pay up, he would be like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna pay you that." And they'd be like, "Yo, you agreed to this." And he'd be like, What are you gonna do? Sue me? No, they can't. They can't do nothing. They have to take what you're gonna give them. That's honestly the advice he gave a lot of business owners, was to hire immigrants so that they can like finesse like that. Which, again,
Yeah,
that's another conversation. But that's really what's going on as well in fast fashion.
yeah. People who know that they can take advantage of somebody's situation and get away with it,
Yeah,
without much consequence, which is really sad.
yeah,
And unfortunately, like in the world that we live in, like in the capitalistic world that we live in, where like profit comes first, um, it happens a lot. And one thing that, like, not to go like too off topic, but like one thing that I want to say as well is like there is no ethical like consumption under capitalism, right? So like as long as like we are working, as long as like the workers don't own like the means of production,
mhm,
as long as like we don't own our labor, like we're gonna be screwed by somebody at the top,
yes.
which is the really unfortunate part, because then it seems like there's like not a lot that we can do, but yeah.
Well, there is something we can do. We can do, like you and I, you guys listening. There's stuff we can do about it. What we can do about it is stop supporting fast fashion. I know it's hard because for a lot of people, fast fashion is a way to look trendy at an affordable price. And to get those pieces that make you feel confident, make you feel a little bit better about yourself. And I know a lot of teenagers as well. When you're a teenager, you don't have money like that, and you do go to school. Right now we're not doing that, but still, like, when school's in, and they have like events, they have dances, they have all this stuff. It's, we get it. Like, I 100% understand, and I'm not gonna sit here either and be like, I've never supported fast fashion. I used to hella buy from Fashion Nova, from H&M, from Forever 21, especially in high school, especially like early college days, 100%. But then, it kind of comes at like, at what cost? Like, I look good, but at what cost do I look good at?
Yeah,
Like, and it
I
kind of
remember
balancing.
I saw this like this one TikTok one time talking about like ethical and sustainable fashion.
Hmm.
And it was like, if you've ever bought a sweater, like a knit sweater or something, and you look at this, like the stitching on it or like the knitting on it, and you're like, wow, this is terrible. Like it looks like a kid did this. Like it's because a kid did do it, which is really fucking terrible. But in other countries, like that type of stuff is allowed. Like
Wait, I'm shook right now. Oh my
no,
God.
no, dead ass. Like it totally makes sense. Like that is allowed in other countries, and like you said, people don't have a choice a lot of the time. Like a lot of the times, the kids have to work. A lot of the times, people have to take whatever job is made available to them because in the country that they live in, like those are the only opportunities that they can take.
Yeah, period.
So it's definitely not their fault that they are like forced to participate in this system.
Yeah.
It really is like the people with money and the people in power who are going into these places and taking advantage of laborers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what can we do about it, right? Because it's like, okay, so if I don't buy fast fashion, one, I don't have these trendy pieces at an affordable price. And then two, I've heard this one as well, where it's like, okay, but if I don't buy from them, then like these people from other countries that are have these jobs because of fast fashion, like what happens to them? And I know it's it takes a lot to change something like that, to change a system that's been in place for a long time, because this just didn't just come up because of fast fashion. This has been a thing where, like, large corporations go into other countries with that they know they can get away with cheap labor, and that's a whole other operations. That's a whole again, another conversation. But this has been happening. So what can we do to really like make an impact and change? And I think it starts with like clothing brands. It starts with business owners. It starts literally with small businesses too, like myself, right? Making sure like, right, I'm starting to do clothing, like making sure like I'm not I'm doing my best to make it as ethical as possible, and not um what do you call it, like supporting it in any kind of way,
Yeah, not contributing in any way.
not
And
contributing. And with the people with other countries, I would say, like with the people in other countries, we can still help. You can still do your part and help. There's no reason why they should be working like hours and hours and hours for a couple cents. There's no reason to. Like, you know, we can help and we can find ways to help. We can also keep working with them, but just pay them fairly. Like, right, if you're like, yo, you know, like I still want to like work with them because all these reasons, cool, no one's telling you you can't. We're just saying pay the people fair. We're saying pay them what they deserve to be paid.
Yeah,
And
especially when a company is like so profitable. Like I always shit on Amazon and it's because I can't stand Jeff Bezos. Like, you know, like when people, and he's not the only one. There's so many people like him where they're at the top of like a multi-million, billion, trillion-dollar company. And they're sitting on all this wealth where they could literally spend thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon millions of dollars per day for the rest of their lives and never run out of money.
I think even with Fashion Nova, you brought up a good point with Amazon, but I feel the same way about Fashion Nova, but a little differently. Like they pay you guys, the amount of money that they pay these influencers for an advertisement is insane. It's insane for one Instagram post. Not even like for one Instagram post, y'all. Like there's a lot of videos on YouTube of people like exposing, quote unquote, exposing like the prices and stuff like that and the rates that Fashion Nova pays these influencers. And it's like, yo, if you can afford to pay these influencers this much money, you can easily take that money, cut it in half, whatever you got to do to pay these people fairly, right? It's the least that you could do now that you've grown, you blew up. Like, they could still keep their prices at what they are. They can figure it out. That's the thing. They can 100% figure it out. They figured out how to pay thousands and thousands and thousands for one Instagram post. And they don't just have a couple influencers. They have a really large pool of influencers that they work with and that they partner up with. So it's like, they can figure it out. They can make it happen, and they just don't. They wake up every day and decide not to.
Yeah. And in a way, like it's kind of screwed our mentality as consumers as well, because like you said, like they can keep their prices the same and still afford to pay their employees more, you know. And it's screwed us a lot as consumers because we've gotten accustomed to going to Forever 21 and buying a $2.99 shirt, a $1.99 shirt, you know. And that's not what a piece of clothing, like that's not the price that it should actually be for hand making or like sustainably producing like a piece of clothing, you know. Things that are made ethically can a lot of the times cost more than we're used to paying, because when you pay everybody, you know, because it's multiple people, and you know this, dude, like it's multiple people like along a chain to make a product.
Yeah, let's give an example actually. For those of you that don't know, because I know like before taking like a course that I did, like I had no idea. So basically it works like this. You have an idea, right? So then you go to a designer. If you're not one yourself, most people go to a designer. So you have to pay a designer to draw out your idea, right? That's just for one piece, for one article, for one garment. Then from there, you go to a pattern maker. A pattern maker then takes a design, makes it into a pattern, and then from the pattern maker, then you go to the person that's actually going to do the cut and sew. Oh, I forgot the fabric. You have to find somebody that sells the fabric, and if you don't like the fabric, you pay somebody to create the fabric that you want, right? So that's a whole other cost. That's already 4 different people. That's excluding myself because I have to pay myself too, right? That's 5 people just alone before the product is even like shipped out and like, you know,
we haven't even created the product yet. We're barely on fabric.
Oh yeah, that's on fabric, and then you take it to the guy that's gonna make it come to life, cut and sew. He's going to take those patterns, he's going to make it come to life. And then sometimes you have to pay somebody to make a sample piece for you before you get to the actual manufacturer. So sometimes before you go to a manufacturer, you have to go to the guy that's going to make you a sample piece. So then that's already what, 6-7 people.
So if you think like 4 or 5 people, let's say they're super talented and good at what they do, right? And we pay them each only for an hour, because it only takes each of them an hour because they're experts at their craft, right?
Okay.
5 people times $15 an hour for each of them. I'm not good at math, but that's $75. Right? That's $75, right?
She's a lawyer from Berkeley. So you're right. You were right.
Yeah.
That's $75.
You're like amazed that I did math in my head. I'm not good at math, y'all, but I was like 15 times 5. I don't know if y'all saw me calculating that in my head, but
Did
that's
amazing.
$75 already that we've spent on one garment, and we haven't even started counting for materials yet and production. What
Period.
if we don't even the machinery that's going to be used to make this shit? Like, there's so many costs that go into this, and so if we're paying everybody fairly along the way, the costs add up, and the end price of that one product is going to be higher than we're accustomed to paying at Forever 21
Yeah,
or
$4.
Fashion Nova.
Imagine we're used to paying like what, $10 for a shirt. And from those $10, Fashion Nova still takes their cut, by the way. Okay, so
And it's a
Fashion,
big cut.
yeah, it's a big cut. So imagine if there's a $10 shirt that you're buying, somebody else, again, we just listed the process of what it's like to make a garment. This isn't the process for everybody, right? But this is like a good sample, I feel, of a process for a lot of companies. And maybe they only use just one person, right? They only have one person. So imagine if Fashion Nova takes $7 out of that $10 shirt, that means $3 is left. three
Yeah,
dollars
for all their production costs.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and we're not like saying all this to like bash on people who need to buy $10, which is I think that
Yeah,
we need
no, no,
to
no.
make super
Yes.
clear. And this is
Yes.
another huge problem.
Yes, and we're gonna get to that one too. But yeah, this is not bashing at all. Like we said before, I get it. I a
Yeah.
100%
If
get it.
that's what you can afford and that's what is in your budget, and you need to buy a shirt and you want to feel good about yourself, and that's all you can afford, like, you need to buy that shirt. Like, we're not looking down on you
Yeah,
for doing that in the slightest.
yeah,
I think that the problem is that this has become like a culture, like the whole culture that we live in. And also I think fast fashion has also been pushed a lot by like social media and like Instagram and stuff like that, because obviously fashion places like Fashion Nova and every other Instagram boutique you can name would not exist without social media, first of all. Second of all, this social media culture creates like a here today gone tomorrow. Like, in 2 weeks it'll be like, oh, that was so long ago, because things move at a rapid pace, like in the era that we live in. Like, trends are here and gone. And so it forces us as consumers, as people who want to be trendy and fashionable, to like buy new clothes frequently. And when you know that you're going to buy new clothes with every trend or with every season, you don't really care if it is made to last. Like, you just need it to wear it for this trend, like, or for this season. And so it's a whole culture issue,
yeah.
really.
That just made me so sad to hear because you're so right. Like, social media has really made everything just fast. Period. Like everything. Like you said, 2 weeks can seem like the longest time
2 weeks is a year
ever.
in social media time.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. That means they're constantly sending stuff to influencers, and influencers are constantly promoting it, and then it's getting promoted so people are buying it, and it's like you wear it today, it's gone tomorrow, and then it's just a cycle that never stops because
And
it's
so much gone to waste, which I know that we wanted to touch on sustainability too.
yeah,
That's
let's
another
move on.
huge issue
Yeah,
with fast fashion, is literally like the literal freaking waste that it creates, right?
yeah, yeah.
So again, when you wear a piece 2 times and then throw it away, like, it doesn't just like poof disappear. Like, obviously we all know, like, everything that we consume, like, it leaves a trace, right? And so if it's a shirt, even if we do things like donate it, like, that's better than like straight trash for everything. But it still is like, every when we buy products, we create demand for more
Yeah.
things, and we're just creating more waste, and I know, like, environmentalism is like a huge concern for, I'm sure, like, almost everybody who's listening, of our friends, and like you as well. So, when you consider, like, oh, like, I need to reduce, like, my water usage, I need to, like, reduce my carbon footprint by, I don't know, by going vegan, or by not driving if I don't have to, or whatever. Like, thinking about the way that you consume, like, clothing, is like, it's also something that you should take into consideration.
Like you said before, like there's no judgment here. If you have to buy that $10 shirt for some reason, like do what you got to do. But just be more aware of like our consumption and how much we consume and how often we're consuming. Because if anything, 2020 taught me that I was buying a bunch of shit for no reason. for the longest time. Like for no reason I was shopping. For no reason I was going to go like buy a new top. Why was I buying a new top every time I would go out? Like why
Yeah.
girl, like that's crazy. And 2020 taught me that like none of that matters. None of that matters. I love fashion, but I can tell you I can pull some fits with what I have in my closet right now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's like again, like a huge privilege that we get to sit here and even be like, oh, like I choose to shop at
Yeah.
thrift stores, or I choose to buy secondhand when I can, or I choose to
Mhm.
whatever. Like that's a huge privilege in itself, which is like a whole other topic. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely right. Like just having awareness is like a good first step in being informed, and where you spend your dollar is a vote,
Mm,
right? And so when you put a dollar towards something, you're voting for everything to be that way, you
mm,
know. And so with fashion it's the same thing. When you give your dollar to Fashion Nova, you're saying like, okay, like I'm in favor of this in a way, you know. And when you put your dollar somewhere else, maybe into a more sustainable company, maybe into secondhand clothing, you're voting for a society where things are more that way, if that makes any sense. I'm terrible at explaining things, but I
no,
hope that makes sense.
period. Period. I'm like what she said, period. There's nothing else to add to that. No, you said it great. You said it better than I could for sure. So, sustainable clothing. Ooh, another thing that we talked about is like oftentimes we hear ethical and sustainable clothing, and they kind of go together, but they also go apart because they're two very different things. Ethical clothing and sustainable clothing are two different things, and we kind of
Yeah.
want to get into that a little bit. So,
Yeah.
for you, best friend, what does ethical clothing or ethical fashion and sustainable fashion mean to you? What are the two differences? What do they both mean to you?
So yeah, so sustainability to me only has to do with to me it mostly only has to do with like environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much can we produce of this before we like run out of a resource. So
Mm-hmm.
like for example, like bamboo is like a sustainable material versus like I don't fucking know, like fossil fuels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we know that fossil fuels are limited and bamboo is like a renewable resource. So that's I don't know, that's I'm like quick science lesson. That's what I think of with like sustainability.
Yeah.
um and then with ethical fashion, I think more so of like more has to do with like morals and like judgment on like what's right and what's wrong, right? So like not paying people is wrong. I'm not paying people fairly is wrong. Making things that are not sustainable is wrong to me. So they're kind of related, but in a way, sustainability is its own little world,
Yeah. Yeah, for
if that
sure.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it does, because I kind of see it the same way as you do. For me, sustainable, like just to sum it up, if it's recyclable, if it's something that I could recycle, and if it's something that isn't damaging to our planet, that to me is like sustainable. Just to keep it short and sweet and simple. Ethical is about ethics. It's about like morals, like you said. It's unethical of me in my brand to pay somebody an unfair wage so that I can profit more from that product. It's unethical for me, in my opinion, to not be size inclusive. That's something as well. Like some people would disagree, but that I just wanted to share that because that looks different for every brand and every company. So when you do support a company that says they're an ethical brand company, you want to make sure you look into what that means for them because it could mean something different for everybody. Like for some people, ethical does not mean sustainable. It doesn't. They mass produce, like they mass produce an item, and they do it ethically, technically, by like making sure that somebody's getting their fair wage. But then there's all these pieces and garments, and a lot of times they don't get used or because they don't get sold or whatever, and like
Yeah.
it's done.
Uh-huh. And I think that like ethical question is going to change like from person to person and from company to company because everybody's values are a little bit different. And so
Mhm.
for instance, like I just brought up the fact that like for me, I try to buy like cruelty free, right?
Mm,
For a lot of companies, like if you were to ask like whoever their PR person is or like whoever their freaking CEO is, whoever makes these decisions, if
mm,
you were to ask them like, do you run an ethical company? Even if if they test on animals, for instance, which is something that I disagree with, they'll be
Yeah.
like, yeah, we do, like, because to them, like, they're following all their checklists, like, rules that they have to follow to be like a good company,
Yeah.
but to me they're not. So I think that that's something important too, is that like every company is operating like according to like their own ethical
Ethics.
and moral agenda.
Yeah.
And so when you support somebody by shopping at their store, or buying their product, you're in a way like, um, not necessarily like agreeing, but you're being passive and like, well, in a way like agreeing to their code of ethics. So, and none of us are perfect. Like I said,
Oh yeah.
I was not buying like natural cruelty free deodorant when I was broke in college,
Mm-mm.
um it's what it's not something that I could do at the time, and I don't regret that. Like,
Yeah.
it's and if you're in that situation where you're like, hey, like, I really can't swing this right now, like, that's on you. Like, that's totally cool with me. Everybody has
Yeah.
to make their own decisions.
Yeah. You know what? And I'm gonna say this. It is so hard. This society makes it so hard for up and coming businesses to be sustainable and ethical. So hard.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God, especially for small businesses. So trust me when I tell you, if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, I kind of fall into this category of like not being sustainable, not being ethical, there's no judgment. Really, there's no judgment because I know how hard it is for many reasons. Expensive, so expensive to be sustainable, and then limited resources to sustainability as well. Um, and there's a long list, but when I say those two, like for example, like, oh y'all, let me show you. If you're watching this visually, you'll get to see. If you're not, I'm so sorry. But the boxes we use, I'll try to make a noise. That's me tapping on the boxes. The boxes we use are butterfly fingers. um I finally found some sustainable boxes. They aren't these. And the reason they aren't these is because the sustainable boxes take me almost 2 months to get to me. 2 months budget wise, like that really like doesn't really work. So it's been a mission, and if we finally, like, I finally was able to figure out how to do it, but it took me a while. I've been in business now for 7 months, and it took me a while to be able to do that. It wasn't easy. It's not easy. And even with the apparel, dude, like the beanie, best friend is wearing the beanie right now. She's wearing the beanie right now.
Quick
And
plug.
yeah, yeah, she's wearing the beanie right now. And I'll tell you that too. I'll be really honest. Like, I'm not really making a big cut from this at all. Like, I'm really, really not. Because being ethical and as ethical as I possibly can be is so important to me. Um, I'm not really seeing a cut right now, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make this happen as a business owner, but also as a consumer, also as somebody who like really, really is passionate about doing my best in this world, not just with people, but like with our environment, with our planet, um, and like the footprint that I leave behind myself. So it's hard. It's hard to be sustainable. It's hard to be ethical. I get it. Uh, and there's no judgment there. But yeah, I just wanted to say that this Saturday makes it hella hard for us to do that.
Yeah, I
We can't.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree. When I was doing the boutique with my sister, and I'm glad that you said like it took me a while to figure it out, because when I was doing the boutique with my sister, like that was always something that was on my mind. And like I said, like most little Instagram boutiques that you find are like contributing to fast fashion, mine included. Like when I did the boutique, we would go to LA and buy like cheap clothes, and we would buy from like wholesale retailers and things like that, and then we would sell on our website. And obviously like we would make a cut back from that, but again, like nothing major. And the sustainability aspect of it was always something that was on my mind, because I was like, damn, like all of this is like cheap stuff that should not be this cheap, and we're selling it for cheap. Like we were just kind of perpetuating the cycle. And even like when it comes to packaging, when it comes to shipping, all of that has a carbon footprint. One of my friends that I knew back in the Bay, he runs a candle company. It's called Hella Clean Candles.
oh yeah,
And
you told me
he
about
is,
that.
yeah, he is the first like business period, like not just like small business, like business period, that I ever ordered from, that received it and I saw something related to like the carbon footprint that is involved with like shipping. So in his shipping, like when you're checking out, it asks you like what type of shipping do you want, and the only option is like some like 3 days shipping, like standard shipping, and it's carbon neutral. So basically, like, I guess I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I know that the company um that like he uses for his shipping, I'm not sure like if they have something like with USPS or if it's somewhere else or how they do it, but they do things where they like offset carbon emissions for every shipment that they make. Does that make sense? So
Mm,
like for some companies that looks like planting a tree or something, or like committing to like so much recycling,
mm,
like like per order. So I'm not sure exactly, like I didn't look into like the specific company that was listed on there, but just that they even like took note of that was something
yeah,
that I was like, holy shit, like that's really really cool. I've never seen that, you know.
yeah,
And like I said, like even when I was doing the boutique, like um it is not the type of thing where like even if I had wanted to, like I would not have known how to buy more sustainably for our boutique. Like
yeah.
what I
And
knew
still
was
keep your boutique alive and still making.
exactly like what I knew was like wholesale retailers based in LA that we could sometimes shop from online too, but from like wholesale catalogs and things like that. But that's all that I knew. Like I had no idea like where the hell could I buy like sustainably, ethically made clothing to
Yeah,
sell at a price that I thought was fair for my
yeah,
consumer. Because on the other hand, like as a business owner, you want to you want your product to be for everyone. You don't want money to be a barrier like for why somebody can't enjoy your product. You know, that's why like I'm not in the business of selling $200 garments, and like you probably feel the same way because you want your product to feel like it's for everyone and then like everyone can afford it, you know, like even somebody who's working like an entry level position or minimum wage or part-time or whatever it is, like you want them to be able to at some point like enjoy your product.
yeah. And it's hard though because sometimes like you have to really decide, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong actually when I say this, but it feels like sometimes you have to choose between sustainable or affordable. Um,
Right.
Most times that's what it comes down to. I feel, again, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope somebody out there is like, no, Val, there's another option to be sustainable and affordable. And if you know it, let me know because it's tough. Like even AOC, right, with that sweatshirt that just came out, the
The
tax
eat
the
the
rich.
rich. Oh, is it
Yeah,
eat the rich or tax the rich?
eat the rich. I think it's no, I don't know.
Or is it tax?
I don't know. Both
I'm gonna
same
look it
thing
up.
though. Same concept though. But
Yeah.
that sweater that she came out with, people were tripping out because the sweater was almost $60. It was like 50, around 50, $60. And they were like, what the heck? Like, you're so like what is it? Contradictory. Like you're contradicting yourself. Like how is this X amount of money and you're right? But it's like
Like you're for the people but you're charging luxury
yeah,
prices.
exactly. And it's like, yo, that's truly what a sustainable like sweatshirt costs. I know even my sweatshirt, I think I priced it at like 50 something, 55 or 50. I mean, I don't even want to talk about numbers, but I'm really not making a big cut from that sweater at all. Like really I'm not, but it's just something that I feel really passionate about, and the hoodie is something that means a lot to me. And I wasn't about to mark up so that I could like it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right at all. So
Yeah.
that's what oh sorry. That's what sustainability looks like, you guys. And I'm hoping again that in the future it changes and we have better options. And again, it starts with like us. It starts with us seeing that there's an issue and trying to figure out how to solve that issue and how to work towards helping solve that issue.
Just want to add to that, and maybe this will be like our last point, but everything counts. And so being informed is huge. Buying sustainably and buying with stores and shops that align with your own values is huge. Buying secondhand is huge.
Mm,
You know, spreading information, you know, to those around you, and you know, having these conversations is huge. Voting for people, if you can vote, voting for people whose values align with yours, you know, with paying people fairly, with taxing the rich, with making sure that like the environment is like at the front of our concerns. Those are all huge things. So every drop in the bucket counts. Like, don't feel bad if, like we said, if you have to buy from Forever 21, from Fashion Nova, from wherever, because that's what you can afford and that's what makes you feel good, then it's okay, because there's so many other things that you can do. Like, being informed is important, having these conversations is important, voting and being active is important, you know, active in like our society is important. So all of those things are
Period.
equally important.
Period. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like, we have to just be informed and do the best that we can.
Yeah. 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 Doing the best that we can is literally all we can do. Um, but yeah, you guys, that's just a little bit about how we feel and what we think about these certain things in fashion. Again, when we speak on here, we always like we both like to say like our perspectives can change tomorrow. We're constantly growing. You guys are growing with us. I'm sure if we go back and listen to episode 1, we're gonna feel different about some things, and that's just part of life and growing. And yeah, but that's how we both feel right now at the moment, about fast fashion, about ethical and sustainable fashion. Again, we're just trying to do our best, trying to do our part.
That's that on that.
She said, and that's it. And then, speaking about fashion, though, again, best friend is wearing our beanie right now. We have a couple more left, so if you want to cop it, they are ethically made. They are made in Santa Ana, embroidered, like with lots of love. I'm like, those beanies have lots of love in
Blood,
them.
sweat, and tears.
They really do. Oh my gosh, they really do. They really do. So if you guys want to cop a beanie, you can find that at valeriepamela.com. That's just my plugin.
And it's not just the beanie. She also has t-shirts. She has sweatshirts and more coming soon, people.
Yeah, and again, we're trying to do this as ethically as possible. Hopefully, we can continue to move forward with ethical, sustainable mindset, like concept
Mindful.
in mind. That's the goal, as we
Yeah.
move forward. So, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Authentic Amigas. My name is Valerie. Best friend, what's your name?
I'm Florencia. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, and again, if you haven't followed us yet on Instagram, go ahead and follow us now at Authentic Amigas. Twitter at Authentic Amigas. You know what? I like Twitter though. I don't know if you run her, best friend, because I'm not running her right now.
She runs herself.
Yeah, she runs herself. Occasionally, I'll accidentally log into that one and I'll retweet some stuff, and I'm like, oh, well, you know what? It's fine. But if you want to follow us there as well, go ahead and follow us on those social media platforms. We're gonna do better. I know we are, because
you know what I'm gonna say, everybody who is listening, between now and let's see, today is the 11th, so this episode is gonna go up on the 13th. So between now, when you are listening, and Christmas, anybody who follows us on Twitter is gonna follow back.
Yeah.
How about that?
Ooh, let's do that.
Anybody who follows us on Twitter, we're gonna follow you back. So make sure that you hold us accountable. Follow us on Twitter, and I will do better about posting on there little updates, whatever we got going on.
I will do better too. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Authentic Amigas. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Happy holidays. Christmas is around the corner. We'll have a Christmas episode coming out next week, right? Yeah.
Next week. Oh my God.
Yeah. Next week will be our Christmas episode. Next week will be our Christmas episode. So we'll have something fun. If you guys have any ideas, go ahead and DM those to us. But till then,
we'll catch y'all in the next episode. I can't talk today.
Question of the day.
We didn't do it.
Yay. What is your favorite sustainable
Go off, queen. My favorite sustainable brand?
Yeah, what is your favorite sustainable brand that you support right now?
Oof, you caught me so off guard with that one.
And if you don't have one, that's even better, because it's time to look for
Butterfly Fingers. Valerie Pamela. I said Valerie Pamela.
I'm gonna cry right now. Hold on.
Valerie Pamela is my favorite one. But to be honest, I think that queen.
No, dude, I'm a mess, because I literally I've been working so hard. I tried to do that, and the fact that you said that, we still have a lot to do, but it's been a mission trying to get as sustainable as possible. This world does not make it easy.
Don't cry, because I'll cry on the podcast.
No, I'll cry right now.
Oh my God. Well, that's my answer, Valerie. Pamela, what's your answer?
My answer is hold on, I don't want to say it wrong, so let me look it up because kites kites fly yellow. Kites fly yellow. She is a she's a reseller, but even in her bio she has shop my stories, reduce, reuse, recycle, buy vintage. So that's one. She's amazing and she has awesome vintage pieces. There's a big difference between vintage and thrifted, so maybe we'll talk about that in another episode, but for now that's all we got.
All right. Well, I will make sure to check her out on Instagram. Check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. And we'll catch y'all in next week's episode. Let us know your thoughts for this week.
Till then, ciao. How do I end this? End.
I think this should be like a stop record button, no?
Got it.